I just live for him being kind of sassy and even like a little mean sometimes. Like, 'cause it's like, I don't know. Sonic is not like a smooth ass character like how Sega tries to paint him to be in the modern day. It's like, no, he's flawed as hell. He literally, he's kind of rough around the edges sometimes too. Like, which is why he and Tails probably click so well. The highly anticipated Part 2 of Sonic Prime dropped recently, and okay, they're really out here writing the characters better than Sega themselves. When watching Prime, it's abundantly clear that the writers have a very solid understanding of each character and what makes them tick. Nobody feels out of character. Each decision they make only strips back the layers and reveals more. Sonic Prime defies the meta era, laughing in its face and reaffirming that the Sonic series can have emotion, and Sonic himself can have a natural, meaningful arc. Let's talk about that. So obviously, unlike the other characters, Sonic's several layers aren't represented through otherworldly versions of himself. He's the lone Sonic in the Shatterverse. But that doesn't mean the show isn't interested in picking him apart as well. Seeing Sonic experience a character arc is a rarity for Sonic media, especially modern Sonic media. He's always been a pretty stagnant character, the one constant in a world full of changing characters like Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Shadow, and that's perfectly okay. But even the hero himself isn't exempt from Prime's scrutiny. The show examines its characters through a critical lens, exploring them as well-intentioned but flawed people. Sonic is no exception. From the very first episode, Sonic is the instrument for pretty much everything going wrong. Obviously, he attacks Eggman without listening to his friends, the Shatterverse is created, and drama ensues. This act obviously reveals his recklessness, which has been a key part of his character since the beginning. But it also emphasizes his blind trust, that no matter what rash action he takes, everything will be okay. Sonic's tragic flaw is his trust, and Prime centers around Sonic receiving consequences for it. In Prime Part 1, Sonic still holds on to this trust that everything will be okay. And why shouldn't he? He's experienced a myriad of crazy situations in the past and come out on top. But with Prime Part 2, he really starts to internalize the repercussions of his actions and just how severely he's messed up. This comes to a head in Ghost Hill, the physical representation of consequence. Here, he realizes that because of his recklessness and air of false invincibility, his friends no longer exist. Sonic becomes more determined than ever to right his wrongs. He owns up completely to his actions and will stop at nothing to fix the mess he's created. While Sonic is portrayed as heavily flawed, he's still a hero and a great person at heart. One of Prime's subtle themes is that while we all have ugly traits, ultimately we have control over ourselves and how we decide to grow. On that note, let's talk about 9. Throughout the second part of Prime, Shadow constantly warns Sonic about 9, cautioning that he can't be trusted and Sonic needs to watch his back. But despite Sonic's blind trust getting everyone into this mess, he still can't let it go. Why wouldn't he trust 9? 9's a variation of Tails after all, and Tails would never betray Sonic's trust. But as Shadow says, 9 isn't Tails. He's 9. Sonic's faith gives him tunnel vision. He doesn't see 9's side of the story, the fact that he'll be erased from existence if Sonic returns home, nor does Sonic really comprehend the level of attachment 9 has to him. And of course, 9 ends up completely shattering his trust. Sonic's trust inadvertently created the Shatterverse, and now his blind faith has screwed everyone over yet again. But despite all that, Prime doesn't paint Sonic's trust in a completely negative light. The reason Sonic was so open to 9 was because, in a way, 9 was Tails. Despite seeing how rough around the edges 9 was, Sonic never stopped believing he was a good person at heart. This demonstrates the sheer level of respect and love Sonic has for his Tails, and the way he defends him against Shadow is extremely touching and admirable. I assume Sonic's faith in 9 will be what eventually spurns a change of heart and fixes everything. Trust isn't black and white, and Prime understands that. Besides revealing Sonic's biggest character flaw, Prime also sprinkles other layers to his personality. For example, Sonic can be a little mean. From telling Rebel and Knux not to slow him down to getting snippy with the pirate crew, although rightfully so, Sonic isn't exactly a perfectly smooth hero. And that's totally okay. Sonic has always been cocky and sassy, and Prime just uses these traits to its advantage. Another powerful aspect of Prime is showing us a rare instance where Sonic almost completely loses. He loses his friends, his home, everything. But instead of feeling sorry for himself or giving up, Sonic pushes forward with even more determination and fervor. By allowing Sonic to fail, the show gave itself an opportunity to explore how Sonic takes failure, and this in turn makes him even more heroic. Despite his flaws, Sonic is first and foremost a good person. Whether he promises Thorn to help restore Boss Cage Maze, saves Shadow from a terrifying doom, or offers Nine a much-needed kindness and validation, Sonic is the very definition of a hero. Even though Sonic didn't have the advantage of several different versions of himself that visibly deconstruct his character, the show does this all on its own, simply by giving Sonic agency. He's the one who causes things to go wrong time and time again, but his proactivity in the plot also causes things to go right. He breaks through to Thorn and makes her see the error of her ways, and for a small period of time, he does the same for Nine. Compare this to Sonic X, for example, where Sonic doesn't have the same agency. I mean, they go to Earth because Eggman screwed them over with Chaos Control, not because Sonic did or didn't do anything. By making the plot follow Sonic's actions, for better or worse, Prime is already giving Sonic more depth and exploration than the majority of Sonic media. Sonic Prime doesn't have the same restrictions as Sega, and they seize the opportunity to go wild. Sonic makes several bad decisions, he's messy, and he's very imperfect. But at the end of the day, that's not a bad thing. As long as he's willing to learn and grow and utilize his noble, heroic traits, flawed is okay. I like to think that's a theme of Prime. From Nine, to Dread, to Thorn, to even Sonic himself, the show emphasizes the uglier sides of human nature. But ugliness is a part of who we are, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. Ultimately, we always have the power to make our own choices and prevail.